right, this is Sherman Tank coming at you again from Anchorage, Alaska. Tonight I have a kind of a special guest. It's somebody that I know, but does not want to reveal his face or anything like that. He is going to remain anonymous for the show for good reason. He's actually down in Central America, and we're going to talk a little bit about some internet security and some other stuff that's going on and why he moved down to Central America, and kind of what his goals and aspirations are down there, and just kind of talk a little bit about what's going on down there. So what's happening? We're going to call him Juan tonight, by the way. What's going on, Juan?
Not a lot. Just over here in Central America.
And kind of what his... sorry about that.
And living life, I guess. Getting out of the U.S.
Yeah. So, just curious. I mean, let's this show's kind of about you. So, and some of the stuff we're going to talk about. But why did you decide to move down there?
There were several reasons, but outside of that, I have a pretty strong presence in, we'll just call it the underground world of technology. There were a lot of things that I was watching, focusing on there. And the things that I had seen that were getting ready to take place, I felt like it was a safe bet to probably leave the United States. As you know, there's a lot of stuff that's happening that hasn't really panned out. You know, we can call it conspiracy theory. We can call it, I don't know, the QAnon, all the drops, all those things like that. I don't focus much on that, but I did watch the economy, finances, and things like that. And there obviously was a power struggle that was getting ready to take place. And then you had the COVID-19 thing that happened, which is not even affecting us over here. I can't think of a single case that we've had over here. The people here are not being ran by fear. They're governing themselves. Everything's working out well. There's a lot of respect people have over here, but we'll just say from the outside looking in, the end being the United States, it's very obvious that there is a controlling mechanism that's happening. I understand that there's loss of life, and that is a shame. But at the same time, what's happening during the loss of life or during this COVID-19 is the thing that I guess that I'm concerned about, because it's happening in certain parts of the world, and oddly enough, where it's really happening or where it's affecting the world the most, there seems to be other things happening at the same time. Suppression of speech. You guys are basically on house arrest over there, as far as I can tell. I heard recently California's getting ready or attempting to pass a law where women can go out at certain times, but not men. People are getting arrested, going different places. That's absolutely ridiculous. For anyone to think that there isn't an agenda going on is out of their mind. It's clear as day from over here watching the United States, and it's mind-blowing. It's actually quite mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, I imagine that you being down there and kind of looking in, from the outside in now, I know that you are obviously from United States originally, and you grew up and everything here, but looking from the outside in, I'm sure it's like, where you're living now, looking at the United States, it's like a foreign country. I mean, like a majorly foreign country. I personally, I've never been outside of the United States, and I don't even recognize it. That's one of the reasons I moved up here to Alaska, was to try and escape some of those. And unfortunately, it beat me here.
Yeah, there's you have complete totalitarianism now happening there in the United States. It's beyond even what a Democrat would hope for at this point. It's complete suppression. You have Facebook now that's wiping. I mean, today there seemed to be a massive turn of events, and I don't know how close everybody's watching everything, but you had YouTube today that's just ripping post by post by post down. Facebook's doing the exact same thing. Anything that doesn't fall under the WHO standards or guidelines is being ripped away. Facebook, who also owns WhatsApp, also put out a release today stating that if anyone sends anything through WhatsApp to a second party more than 3 times that goes against the WHO, it won't be allowed to be sent anymore. Now that's really interesting too, considering WhatsApp for a long time, their claim to fame was end-to-end encryption within their texting, their voice, voice to voice. That's all gone. Facebook bought that out. Google obviously bought out YouTube, and there's just this weird thing going on. I hate to say it, freedom of speech, it seems, is gone. And the sad thing to me is I feel like that's a petri dish over there, a testing ground to see how much people will put up with, and at what point will they begin to fight. And there's no fight. There's absolutely no fight. And you know this more than I do. We've seen over the course of the last 2 or 3 years that there's a lot of talk going on and there's not a lot of action. Now, I don't think people should go out and start physically attacking people or harming people. But at the same time, there needs to be some type of resistance. Mm-hmm. And the resistance is so minimum that people over there are just bowing down like sheep. And it's interesting, like I said, to see the control that's taking place there and how the people are basically bowing down to that control. I don't even know if there's a solution at this point anymore.
Yeah, and that's the thing is they've got everybody living in fear. I mean, it's like, I was talking to you earlier. We had a lady in Idaho that had her kid out at a park, and I mean, the thing is, and it's not against the law to be able to be out in public. I mean, you got to, obviously you're supposed to wear a mask and you're supposed to wear gloves and yada yada yada, but it's not against the law to not do that. There's still an illusion of choice that's supposed to be there, and a lady was out with her kid at a park that had supposedly been closed. Well, cops showed up, they arrested her, they took her to jail, in front of her kid. And then last night, a group of people showed up at the cop's house who did the arresting and served him with papers. And I mean, it shouldn't even have to go that far. And there was people pissed off at the people who showed up at the guy's house and everything else. But you know what? I look at it like the cop that did the arresting, he's a citizen just like us. They go to our houses to serve us with crap, right? Why can't we go to their house and do the same thing? And, nobody showed up at that guy's house with guns or anything like that. They showed up to, hey, why did you do this? It was against the Constitution. And, right now they're trying to control our movement. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but they have, there are certain cities now that have drones that was used in China. They're going to start controlling, they're going to start monitoring our health from the air, like China did whenever the COVID thing came out. And so they're testing that stuff. And, keep in mind, the drones that they're bringing over here are from China, the place that this shit started. So, who knows how much spy software is in those damn things as it is. And, I don't know. I mean, it's my view. I'm looking at some of the comments here real quick just to make sure that we're all being heard and everything else. My view on my end, it's like it's encrypted on your live. On with their screen with my live. Well, no, I'm watching my live right now. Everything seems to be moving along, so we'll keep going. Anyway, yeah, so it's completely out of hand. We went out and did a vehicle protest here in Anchorage yesterday, and there was probably between 200 250 cars. Our mayor, I don't know if you've seen some of my posts, but our mayor is trying to go against the governor and trying to keep our lockdown, or hunker down, he calls it. He wanted to keep his executive powers till November 15th. And notice that's right after the election. He wanted to keep it for what they're trying to do now is they're trying to push the mail-in ballot across the country. Some states do it, some states don't. Well, they're trying to do that across the country as a whole. Now, you do that, who controls the vote? We obviously know who that is. And unfortunately, like you said, there's not enough pushback. Instead of being preemptive on some of this stuff, there is no, we're having to push back and fight back. And I had my friend David Fott on here the other night, and he's got the right idea. We need to be preemptive on everything. The problem is, I don't know if we have enough people willing to do that. So, give us a little bit of an idea what it's like in Central America.
There's nothing happening over here. Where I live in Central America, there's not a single case that I am aware of. I live within a small community of about 6 or 7,000 people. It's a pretty large expat community. The government here is not enforcing the borders are not locked down here. However, the countries outside of our borders are locked down. So by proxy, I guess you could say the borders are locked down. The people here are governing themselves. And they have respect for their own families and the people around them, so they're doing what they think is right. Some businesses are closed, some are open. I still go out and have dinner, lunch in different restaurants and things like that. There's no scare, but it's business as usual over here. And everyone over here sits and watches the U.S. and unfortunately, it's almost laughable because you can get a real good sense sitting over here watching the United States, for instance, and how much effect the fear has on the people there. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing. It looks like your entire nation over there has been divided. Noam Chomsky, he wrote a book, I believe it's called Media Control. There's some videos on YouTube you can look up on that too. You start looking at that and you can see it's a play-by-play action book of what's happening right now within the United States. The other thing is over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, it looks like the Democratic Party, and I don't want to make this political, but it looks like the Democratic Party going after Trump, over the last few years, has almost tested to see what they can and they can't get away with legally.
Right.
And it seems like they're untouchable. It seems like anyone within the government is untouchable at this point. And I think they just hit the point where it's like, and excuse my language, they were just like, fuck it. Let's just do whatever we want because we're not going to get in trouble anyway. So we've got a president, Trump, whom I respect dearly. He's trying to make things meet over there, and he follows through with his stuff. You got the Democratic Party that's saying, you know what, we're just going to do socialism anyway. We're just going to push the shit out of it, and they do it by proxy through places like YouTube, through Google, which basically has already monopolized the shit out of everything. Mm-hmm. And they're just going after it. They're stopping people from saying what they want to say. They're stopping what they would consider to be a conspiracy theory. Oddly enough, the entire phrase conspiracy theory is created by the CIA in 1967. Mm-hmm. And it was their way of shutting people up based upon the story that they had created around JFK. I mean, the entire term was created by the United States government. And here it is pushing around, the conspiracy theories, it's all bullshit, the 5G and things like that. You put the fear into the people and you control the people. You split the people, you separate the nation, you create one side and another side. They fight against each other. They're going to fight for their side, and that's what we're seeing. But living here is easy. It is a socialistic country. And the Nicaraguan government, which is where I'm at in Nicaragua, doesn't give a shit about the people, which has huge benefits. Because since they don't care about the people over here, they let the people do what they want.
Right.
So you can live in the middle of the jungle over here, for the cost of living. I live like a king for $700 over here a month. It's really that easy. I don't have to put up with any of the bullshit. No one's telling me what to do. I don't have laws that surround everything I do. No one's coming after me to try and impose a fine. I grow my own food. Everything I do is self-sustainable. And it's not a bad life at all.
And you're pretty much living on a beach, right?
I live on a beach. Yeah, I have a beautiful view in front of me on a beach.
Good weather.
What's that?
And good weather.
The weather's great. The weather's between 75 to 85 degrees daily. And the cost of living here, the place I live in, I pay $400 US a month for a beach house. Not so bad.
No, pretty good. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about internet security, because that's kind of one of your fortes. So, give us some insight into what you would consider good internet security. I know a lot of people are ways to communicate securely, if there is such a thing anymore.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know if there is such a thing as good internet security. Man, Well, WhatsApp is out, right? WhatsApp has
Right.
now been compromised by Facebook. You've got Google, which people depend upon now as a browser, a search engine, an internet, an office suite, all these different things. They also run YouTube. To be honest, I spend a lot of my time on the dark web. I run through a Tor browser, I run through a VPN, I proxy everything I do. It's not that I'm trying to hide anything. It's just my anonymity to me is important, as well as my privacy. And
Right.
it's not, again, it's not I'm doing anything wrong, but there is a basic principle that I stand by, which is this is my information. Everything I put out there is mine, and I want to protect that. Um,
And that's I think at least most Americans, they want to have that feeling that their stuff's not going to be stolen, or end up on someone else's website, or end up in someone's database. So VPNs and things like that, I think, are important to look into for sure. Do you what Just kind of curious, what kind of VPNs are you using?
yeah, right now I use let me see which one I'm logged into right now. I'm using Private VPN Access is the one I'm running through, and I'm bouncing out of Denver, Colorado right now. So Private VPN is the one that I use currently, and then I also run through Tor, which creates a secondary layer of privacy for what I'm doing.
Now, I want to give everybody kind of a little bit, not really a history, but Juan here, it's a guy that I know, and he typically, his thing is he does help a lot of people, a lot of humanitarian type stuff. So he's traveled all over the world, doing what it is he does, and he's settled down in Central America just because of what he had described. It's a cheap place to live. It's beautiful there, and the government leaves him alone. So for those of you, hopefully nobody knows who he is. That's the whole goal of this. But I know what he's about, and I trust him 100% on stuff. We've worked on some things together, and I'm glad to be able to have him on here. But that's the thing, is I think is people, most of 90% of my audience, I would say, or 99% of my audience is American. So they're dealing with what you had already seen. How long have you been down in Central America?
I've been here probably 4.5 months now.
Okay, so you got down there before the COVID stuff really took hold in the United States.
Yeah, I oddly enough, I've been blessed with being in the right place at the right time, and this was no different for me.
Right. Well, you're definitely blessed there, because I've been laid off from work. I can't go to work right now, so first time in 40 years or 30 years, I guess, 30-year career I've ever had to file unemployment. So I'm living in a time that I'm very unfamiliar with, and it's both scary and frustrating at the same time. We just bought a house and everything here in Alaska, so trying to make sure that we can juggle the bills with what little the friggin' state government and federal government give you. I can't see. Here's my thing. Okay, so I make a decent living. I'm not rich, but with what somebody makes on unemployment, I can't see how anyone can live on that. I really can't. And they might be able to. I don't think that they could afford a place down there on what I get for regular unemployment here. So I can't understand why more Democrats or more people that are that don't work. I don't see how the hell they can survive. I really don't.
Yeah,
Especially paying rent and stuff. So
I think we're getting to the point now where people really need to consider downsizing, minimizing their lives so that they only have what they need. I think they also need to focus on things like creating their own self-sustainable communities. They grow their own food, they filter and pull their own water from the ground. They run off of solar, and they stop depending upon other services that can be pulled away from them, yanked from underneath them, and I think that's where a lot of people have gone wrong, is they've lived beyond their means.
right.
Now, I'm not going to tell anybody they can't live the way they live. That's not the point here. But I can tell you, before I moved here, I downsized my life. I sold my house. I got rid of my vehicles. I got rid of anything that I felt was an anchor or anchoring me down. I packed everything I had in a 42-liter backpack, and I headed off. And I can tell you, there's that old phrase. There's that phrase. And now I'm forgetting the phrase, but you know, there's that whole thing, less is more, right?
Right.
We've all heard this throughout our lives, and it never really clicks. It's like, okay, yeah, I get it, less is more, but does anyone really know what that means? And I can tell you, I didn't really know what that means. I faked it like I knew what that meant for most of my life, but until I downsized my life and I minimized everything I had to where what I owned was on my back, I can tell you what it means.
Right.
Less is more. It means less in my mind that I have to worry about, more in my mind I have to create with.
Mm-hmm.
The more peace I have, the more happiness I have, the more freedom I have. That is the less is more, because I'm not worrying about bills anymore. I'm not worrying about how I'm going to pay my mortgage, how I'm going to pay my rent, how I'm going to pay my car payment, how I'm going to pay my credit cards. With all that stuff stuffed in my mind, I didn't even know who I was. But as soon as I downsized everything, I minimized everything I had, I cleared out my mind, it was like, oh, wow, this is what life is about. It gave me the freedom to do whatever I want. And I know a lot of people have kids out there and they're like, well, that's easy to say because you don't have kids. But I tell you, I'm in a community and most of the people here have kids. It's not impossible. You pack the kids up too and you stuff them in 2 other backpacks and you take them with them. But everything works out, you know? I mean, when you can walk into a town and you can sit down and have a meal that costs $50 or $60 in the United States and you pick it up here for $2.50, it's not really that hard. You know what I'm saying?
No, I completely understand. And talking about minimizing and everything, if you've completely minimized, I mean, if something bad happens, you're not losing as much either. Right. Everybody gets wrapped up in the gadgets and the toys and the personal possessions and stuff. And, whenever you lose it, most people that I know are kind of lost for a while. So if you don't have that much, you ain't got that much to lose. I'm sure it's very freeing. I know when I moved up here, I came up the very first time that I ever moved up to Alaska, and this has been 15 years ago. We sold everything we had. I jumped on an airplane and landed here with the clothes that I had with me, and we had no vehicles. We had nothing. And within, I don't know, I'd say probably a month, we had vehicles, we had a place to stay, and it is freeing. But at the same time, it's hard to get, for me, it's hard to get used to, because I'm always one of those kind of guys that's a busybody and I like to keep myself busy. This whole laid off thing is driving me absolutely up the wall.
Sure, I can imagine.
There's not enough stuff for me to keep me busy. And, there's stuff at the house that I know I need to do, but it's like, if I start it, then I got to spend money on it. I don't have the money to really spend on it. And it's just like, one thing after another. I went 3 days without any sleep. Last night, I finally got some sleep and it felt really good, but I still feel like I haven't caught up yet. And, it would be nice to be able to lay on a beach somewhere and not have to worry about that. And I completely applaud you for getting out of here, because dealing with what we've got going on right now is it's both nerve-wracking and very frustrating at the same time.
And how does it end? I mean,
I don't see an ending happening, honestly.
Right. Think about how powerful attachment is. For instance, if I wanted to control somebody, so hypothetically, I want to control someone, the first thing I would do is give them everything they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I'd allow them to buy everything they wanted. I'd give them the means of buying everything they wanted. And that could come through the form of, here's a credit card. Here's another credit card. Buy what you want. Buy what you want. Get that house you can't afford. You can make payments for the next 40 or 60 years. But think about that. Think about how many Americans are sitting at home right now that are literally refusing to do any pushback, because what's going through their mind is, well, I've worked for the last 40 years for everything I have. I can't possibly give that up. Perfect. You're trapped.
Right.
Think about how it works. When you have all these things that you collect your whole life, you become attached to those things. And once you become attached, most people won't walk away because they think they're going to be sacrificing something, right? I had to give up every single thing that I worked for almost 4 decades of my life in order to experience for the first time what I would consider freedom. Right. But I had to give it all up. I had to take that leap of faith. I had to run around that blind corner not knowing what was on the other side. But I can tell you, as I stand here speaking to you now, everything works out. And I think if people want to really live a fulfilled life at this point, based upon everything happening, they're going to have to just take that leap of faith and give up everything,
Right.
because it's the only place they're going to find anything
Well,
is by giving up everything.
I think one of one of the ways that they control here is another way of it anyway, or one of the biggest ways that they do it is with credit, right? So
Right.
I've had I guess probably the first 4 years I had credit, I had perfect credit. I paid everything off, and as you start off, you get a little bit of credit, and then you get a little bit more, then you get a little bit more, then you get a little bit more. And I got married once. My credit went to crap. Couldn't afford to pay the stuff we bought. Get divorced, and so your credit does this kind of thing. So what they do is they give you a big amount that as you get older, the more credit you get, the more in debt you become, and then you end up risk losing something. And I'll give you an example with the house that we bought. None of that. If you buy a house and stuff like that, anything can happen. You can have a fire, you can have natural disaster, you can have anything. Anything's possible to where you or you can lose it. And this whole COVID thing where people are not working and everything else. I mean, this could turn into another housing crisis. As it is, the economics in the United States are crap as it is. We lost our oil. I don't know if you've seen it or not. Oil crashed. It's like, last I seen was minus $40 a barrel.
Yeah.
There's a place in Fairbanks, I shit you not. Today I got a picture sent to me by a friend from Fairbanks, and they were literally giving gas away. Giving it away. There was a gas station that was filling people's cars up for free. I shit you not. Now, gas is still $1.70 here or whatever, but when was the last time you seen gas less than $2 a gallon? And here it's $1.75, I think, at Costco, or at least that's what it was 3 or 4 days ago. It's probably cheaper than that now. In some places in the back east, it's down below $1 a gallon. And I last time I seen something like that was when I was in high school. That was 20 plus years ago. So,
and the irony is, you're not even allowed to drive around.
Right, exactly. Are we getting our money back on our insurance for our cars? No.
Yeah.
So that's money wasted right there, at least in this circumstance. There's so many things that have changed. Anchorage has changed. I was up here 10 years ago, 10 years ago, and it was a great place to live. They took care of the crime, and it was really halfway decent. And I spend 10 years away, come back up here, I don't even recognize it anymore. We've got socialistic leaders in like the mayor here. He's a socialist. He's basically gone completely soft on crime. Vehicle theft is now a misdemeanor. And it's with the COVID thing, in the United States, they're letting criminals out because they don't want them to catch it in there. And there's people that are getting out, like in New York, that they're getting out as soon as they get out of jail. They're going out and recommitting, and they're ending back up in jail. And the mayor and the governor, they're like, I don't understand why they're doing that. Well, they're career criminals, dude. It's like, seriously. So I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you got out, and I'm glad you're being able to look from the outside in, and it's not affecting you out there. So what else would you like to talk about?
Well, just here's my take, and I spend a lot of time, and my background is technology. I'm being very careful with what I say here, so I apologize. There is a war going on right now. I am witnessing the war personally, firsthand. There is a war between your underground technical geeks fighting that war against the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, fighting it against the WHO. There was a dump yesterday that went to Payspin, a database dump that went out that put all the emails of the WHO out there for the world to see, as well as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I know those servers are being pegged right now. People are breaking into those servers. They're gathering the information. They're also going into the Wuhan laboratory in China. They're breaking into those servers as well. in an attempt to get information that will emphatically prove that this is a biological virus that was created for a specific reason. Now, what that reason is, I'm not quite sure, but I can tell you what is very obvious is that reason, or the virus happening, we'll just say that, is being utilized to a high degree by government to push the people to see how far they can go with those people before they push back. And there's, like I said, there's no pushback happening over where you're at. I can tell you, you put a possum in the corner and he's got nothing left, he's going to fight. The problem is with Americans, again, we go back into this, they live beyond their means. So you ain't pushing them into a corner. They're not going to fight because they don't want to risk giving up what they have. But if Americans didn't have anything, they'd be putting up a massive fight right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's trying to protect their interest, whether it's their house. In the end, quite honestly, the internet is controlled. We sit here, for instance, and we do this video conference between you and I and the rest of your followers and stuff like that, and someone can flip the switch at any point and shut it down. I worked on software technology. I worked for the United States Marshal's Department at one point, writing software for that organization or that branch of the government, and I can tell you I saw things that would make your eyes water in regards to software. There's software out there that does traps based upon keywords that are said in email. If you're not running PGP or any type of encryption, Blowfish, anything like that, your emails, anything in those emails will be flagged based upon keywords. I can tell you, I can walk into someone's house right now and take every single thing off their computer without ever getting into their computer by simply installing a dongle through the RJ45 cable in the back of the computer, which would grab all the data going in and out with ever accessing your computer. So all this technology is already out there. You're not able to protect anything anymore. Mm-hmm. Everything's already been created to bypass the system. So you don't even have to have the password to get into anyone's computer. Like I said, there's dongles out there that you can plug into the back and get all that information too. Surveillance equipment's already out there. It's already monitoring cell phones. I forget the exact name of those specific boxes that they install within those towers themselves. But again, they run off of keywords. You mentioned the word hate, you mentioned murder, you mentioned kill, you mentioned Al-Qaeda, you mentioned terrorism, you mentioned guns, you mentioned bombs, bullets, whatever it is. It's all being flagged and thrown into a central database. I know this personally because I've worked on these systems. Mm-hmm. So nothing is sacred anymore. There is no good form of communication unless it's end-to-end encryption. And that encryption would have to go from you to me through a PGP key, and it would have to be encrypted. But even once it hits your computer, you have to decode it to where you can read it. Once that happens, now you're opened up for someone to read your computer. We've got these computers now that you put your finger on. Opens up your computer with a thumbprint or your phone. I could cut your finger off and stick it on your computer, or I could tell you I was going to do something to your family and you put your finger on your computer or your phone anyway. I'm going to get that information.
Right.
So we've hit this age now where the best form of communication and security is, one, not to have communication. The best form of security, well, isn't to own anything, because everything you own has already been backdoored, So there's no answer to any of this. It's basically go off the grid, govern yourself, grow your own food, have your own water, and live your life until you die, and bring your closest loved ones next to you when you do. But nothing's going to go backwards at this point, at least in technology, which is the area I know. No one's going to be like suddenly, okay, well, we're not going to do this anymore, and we're going to make sure you have all the security you want.
Right. Well, let me ask you something, and this is maybe this is kind of naive for me to say. I know that whenever the internet first arrived in our lives, there was what they called a source code. Is the internet even can that even be taken down anymore? Unless you have like a giant EMP or some kind of now with all the satellites and everything that's up in the sky. I mean, I don't even know if that's possible. You know what I mean? Is that something that can happen?
It's not a hard thing to do. Communication can be shut down. I mean, there's a place in California, I believe it's called Los Osos. Valley of the Bears is what it translates. You can go to Los Osos. There's a place over there called Cables. It's known as Cables to the local surf community. The reason why they call it cables is because you can see the fiber pipe that comes in from China right there. It rolls right up on the shore, which brings all the communication in and out through fiber networks in Los Osos. Shutting the internet down is simple. You basically go after the internet service providers. So for instance, if you're running off of Time Warner or whatever you guys have over there now, I'm not too privy on those things. All they have to do is shut it down. I mean, if you don't pay your internet bill, they shut your computer down, right? They shut your internet down.
Yep.
So yeah, it's completely possible. And you have main pipes that come in. So you have your telco pipe that basically plugs into your ISP, your internet service provider. So your internet service provider has to be getting the bandwidth already from somewhere else, and then they sell that bandwidth that they're receiving. That bandwidth that they're getting can be shut down. Also, the pipe that goes into the ISP, which is your connection or the ISP's connection, is already being monitored anyway. Mm-hmm. So the ISP can legally say, we don't sell your information. We are a completely private network, and no one will know anything about your security through us. That's absolutely correct. But you don't have to, because where they're getting their pipe from is already being monitored. Mm-hmm. So anything going in and out of that pipe is already red flagging based upon keywords anyway. And I talk about keywords. It's way beyond that at this point. So the truth is there is no security left. It doesn't exist.
Well, let me ask you something then on that the same kind of thing. You got all these guys running around that are anonymous and they do all this, the internet hacking and all that kind of stuff. How are they able to do that and not get picked up? I mean, some of them, I'm sure some of them are working for the government in some respects, because the government has done that in the past. They've actually taken guys that were good with this kind of stuff and hired them. But how are some of these guys with like anonymous and stuff not getting arrested and found out? I'm just kind of curious. Are they just using the VPNs and the secure stuff, or are they just really watching what they do on there?
Sure, most of those type of people aren't bouncing through one VPN. They're bouncing through multiple. There's a reason why all the hacks come from Russia. It's not because Russia's doing the hacks. It's because Russia's a jump point within the VPNs. So in your VPN, you can determine where your jump points are. Mm-hmm. So for instance, why not open your VPN and dump it through Russia and then bounce from Russia back into the United States? Anyone who's looking for it says, oh, the hack just came in from Russia. Mm-hmm. The hack came in from a place like Denver, Colorado, but it bounced through Russia and probably Poland, Romania, and different places like that. So there's all these multiple hop points. And they're not gonna. It's hard to catch someone like that, because these are the people that wrote the software in the beginning that probably went from the dark side over to the good side as well.
Right.
You know, when you have all the time in the world to sit and learn a piece of software that most people don't know, you get to know it pretty well.
Right. I've always kind of found that kind of stuff fascinating. I just wasn't sure, how these guys, and there's a bunch of them. I mean, every time you turn around, there's someone new, and they're never getting found out. Give you an example, the Q guy, right? The guy that posts on 4chan all the time. How are they not finding out who that is? And why is that not out everywhere by now? I mean, he's been doing it for 2.5, 3 years, and nobody still knows who that guy is. You know what I mean?
Right. He had to sign up with the account under a phone number or first and last name. It could be a throwaway burner phone. Who knows? But I assure you they're looking into those people. It's just, don't ever think for once that the government has the upper hand on technology in that sense. They may have the ability to flip the switch and turn it off, but they don't have the upper hand. If they had the upper hand, there wouldn't be so many hacks taking place right now, And
right.
and some of them are pretty irritating too, Some of those hacks are irritating. They affect all our lives at some degree, the malware, the spyware, and things like that. But I don't know a lot about all the Q stuff. I understand there's people out there putting out the information that the government would deem false and things like that. But at the same time, you can exploit programs. You can use programs that basically create fictitious accounts on Twitter, through Facebook and things like that too. You can. It's not hard to code a bot nowadays.
Right.
As soon as an account's taken down, another account goes up. You can create mirror systems that mirror accounts. And as soon as that account's taken down, the mirrored account takes over from the one that was taken down. And then it just redundantly happens over and over and over again. But they certainly, if you're using someone's platform, like YouTube and stuff like that, I think they probably have a pretty good idea of who that person is at this point. I don't think that's a question. But at the same time, the government needs disinformation as much as they can, because if they don't have anything to call a conspiracy theory in the first place, the whole idea of a conspiracy theory will die away. And they don't want that to happen either.
Right.
And it could very well be that it's the government, and I mean, this is a hypothetical, but the government could be also the ones distributing the disinformation to keep the people kind of questioning each other, and the division amongst the people. Because without the division, you have a united nation.
Right.
And if the nation's united, then the power's too strong for the enforcement. So everybody has to be all over the place anyway. So, whether all this is true or not, I don't know in regards to that, but I can tell you, what the greatest trick the devil ever did was convince people he was the devil.
Yep.
Once you convince, it's so who knows, and then you have to really look at whether that's affecting people or not. You have people that go up on YouTube and they put videos out anonymously about how they're going to go into a high school and shoot up their friends, and suddenly those people are taken out. So, that's the question. It's pick or lose. I don't trust too many people, and I'm not saying that Q isn't real or it is real, but I can tell you that if they wanted to take that down, they would have been able to take it down already. It would have already happened, and it could very well be just a ploy to throw out disinformation to keep the people confused
or keep them compliant.
Keep them. Fear is the key, right? Fear is all the key to control.
That's the thing with Q. So here's what I know about Q. Okay, the guy comes out, he busts out on the scene just after Trump wins, and they come out with, and I'm telling you right now, some of the videos that's been put out by that group has been professionally done. I mean, they're really, really good. You'd have to have some kind of funds behind it. Anyway. You've taken conservatives that would normally have a very good time together, I guess is the best way to put it, or they would get along. And now you've got a section of those same conservatives that believe in Q, the other half don't, and now those people are fighting each other. Right. I mean, it's literally splintered us into 2 or 3 different sections, because that whole Q thing, a lot of those people have become like a cult. I mean, they live, eat, breathe, and shit everything that person posting his Q says, and they follow all the breadcrumbs around and try and piece everything together. And they waste so much time doing that. They don't think, why are we doing this? They just do it. And I'm not saying that he's not real, but I'm sure that if he was real and there was a lot more evidence coming out that he was, we would have already heard something by now. 3 years into this. So, I don't know. He's obviously got pretty good internet security. or someone in the government doing it.
And you mentioned a good point, too, is it keeps people doing something. We can translate that. It keeps people no longer thinking for themselves and depending upon another entity to do their thinking for them. There's power in that too for control.
Yep.
What would happen if everyone had everything taken away from them that was giving them the ideas they have, the influence they have, the options that they have? If everyone had to think for themselves just for an entire week, what do you think would be different about the nation right now? I promise you it would be a hell of a lot different. Because
it'd probably be a hell of a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, but just like the Q thing, like you said, Q started right after President Trump was elected into office.
Yep.
It could very well be that that's just a ploy to keep people on a hook, because it seems like it's been a hook the whole time. How much of that stuff is actually panned out?
Well, that's the thing is, I mean, he nobody really knows for sure, because it's all like wait and see,
Right.
And sometimes the posts come after something has happened, and then you're kind of stuck putting the pieces together. Okay, well, that's what he meant. None of it is ever clear. None of it. And certain things happen, and then they attribute what had happened to the post that was just put out there. So
Right.
it's
So
so
they think that
fucking goofy.
there's just this master of riddles out there,
Yeah.
like reeling people in for the last 4 or 5 years with no end game. I mean, again, if you can keep the people looking at something else or the left hand, what exactly is the
Right
right
hand
hand doing?
doing. Yep.
And it's
Well,
I
the CIA is really good about that. I mean, I mean, how many wars have we been in that the CIA actually was involved in starting? A bunch.
yeah.
You know, they've given weapons to, and it's been proven. That's one reason that JFK wanted to shut them down. You know, they Iran Contra was a big part of that, and there's so many different things that the CIA has been involved in, the FBI has been involved in, and I mean, think about the name of the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. I mean, you know, they're not just doing shit overseas; they're doing stuff here on the homeland too. So,
Sure.
you know, I mean,
Sure.
all the alphabet groups that are out there that have been created, and I'm sure that there's going to be more popping up with this COVID thing. You know, we're going to have the, I can't even speculate as to what some of the names are going to be, but I'm sure it'll be something fancy that they can use a 3-letter, you know, acronym for. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
this is the 2020 modern day version of 9/11 all over again, except this time it's a virus. This time it's a virus that goes through the soles of shoes. This time it's the virus that travels around for 7 to 10 days. You know,
Yeah, and you know that's the thing is now they're coming out saying that, oh, it'll be the reinfection will be worse than the original infection, and so they came out with a study in 2 universities in California, and of course everything happens to come out in California first, but now they're saying that, you know, they have 7,000 confirmed cases there. That's what they're saying, but it's come out now. These universities have done studies that they expect there to be 240 to 440,000 that have already been infected, and only like 0.1% showed any symptoms. So that kind of tells you how strong this actually was. And it's let me to me this is like we're literally living in the Great Depression. I mean, that's one of the things that happened in the Great Depression was sickness and illness and drought and all this other stuff, and the economy was crap, and I mean, people struggled. I mean, we're literally living like a second Great Depression, at least in my eyes. My dad is 88 years old. He was born in the Great Depression, and he literally thinks it's the same thing, but it's being controlled by the government, you know. And my dad's not a conspiracy nut. He's a pretty simple guy, and he's looking at this going, this isn't right, you know. So
yeah, there's, this is, and there's a lot more to it. I think that people aren't particularly looking at either. I see a lot of people on social media screaming, "Oh, I need to get back to work to make money. I need to get back to work to make money." But as far as I'm concerned, you have 3 different types of people right now. You have the one group that ran out of money. You have the second group that's close to running out of money. And then you have the third group that has money. The way that works is, so you have people that don't have money, which means they can't spend. The second group are people getting ready to run out of money, so they're not going to spend. And then you have the third group, which still has money, but they're not going to spend their money because they're afraid this is going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
There's no work. It's supply and demand, basic supply and demand. If no one needs the service or is paying for the service, you can't justify having employees at your job. Nobody's going back to work unless there's a demand for what's being offered. And if people are scared and they're not going to be going out of their houses spending money, there's no work. I personally, and I look at the financial boards, I look at all the cryptocurrency information passing to and fro. I honestly think you're looking at anywhere between a 5 to 7 year recovery at best, based upon what's happening right now. And if you really take a look at what socialism is, it's when the people begin depending upon the government in order to live. So you take away the money, or you put them in a position to where they can't make money, they run out of money trying to live what they're doing, and they have to begin depending upon government. You now have a socialistic state, which is exactly where everybody's going.
Right.
So I don't know. It's sad. I love America. I love my country to death. But what I'm witnessing right now is complete, utter. It's being demolished right now. And I don't want to point fingers at who's doing it, but I can tell you there's a lot of people taking advantage of it right now. That's pretty evident. And anyone out there who doesn't think that this wasn't weaponized, this COVID virus wasn't weaponized, needs to put their head on straight, because this is a biological weapon. It's acting like a biological weapon. It's moving around like a biological weapon. And no one's going to convince me that a virus that left Wuhan, China, was able to infiltrate the entire world in under 3 weeks. That's total, utter bullshit.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Well,
and if it's biologically created, it has an end game. So what is the end game of that virus? And that's the question.
I think it's to ruin countries, destabilize regions, destabilize countries, make other countries weak. I mean, think about the countries that work together. You got Russia, you got China, Iran works with both of those. They're all friendly. You get people fighting one another, and eventually you're going to destabilize. You're going to ruin a country, and that's what we're seeing right now. Every time you get a chance, look at the people. Even yesterday, so you have one group of people that are out there wanting to go back to work, like you mentioned, and then you have another group of people that are literally willing to leave their houses to go out and argue. Well, you shouldn't be leaving your house. You should be staying at home. I mean, so you've got these other people that are just completely crazy in the head, just because they're going against someone else is going against their reasoning, and instead of Americans being Americans and working together, we've gotten to the point now where we would rather spit or cough or cause harm to one another. It's completely. We're literally living in like bizarro world, dude. I mean.
Yeah.
30 years ago, you would have never seen this. I mean, Democrat or Republican back then, you could go down and sit and have a meal and just not discuss politics, and everybody gets along fine. Now, You get those same people together in a room, and they won't even look at one another if they know what political party they belong to. It's completely.
Well, and look at how it's branched off too. You have, you have the Democrats fighting the Republicans and vice versa. But you can see how that's kind of mutated or parasitically invaded everyone else's lives to another degree with this whole COVID thing. People have the same attitude with the COVID as they do with politics now. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You're telling me that the virus isn't alive and it can't. You're crazy. Get away from me. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Defriend.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, look how it's affected people's personalities, where it's like, you take factual information, which has now been replaced with opinion. I can sit there and say the sky is blue, and the other person can say, you're right, the sky is blue. And then I can say, the water is green, and they could say, oh, that's your opinion, the water's blue. It's like they'll take what they want. If it fits there, we'll just call it an agenda, and they'll agree to it as a fact. But as soon as you step out of the box or their reality in which they live in which they built their little glass castle around, you start throwing rocks at that thing. And suddenly, whether you give them a fact or not, they turn it into opinion, tell you it is your opinion, and that's it, man. Nobody's having it. And I blame this on the fucking governmental parties. I blame this specifically on the Democratic Party for fucking people's minds up like that and telling them, getting away with everything. Nothing's going to happen to you. Your opinion matters, I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's crazy. It's interesting too. This is kind of just the funny side of it, but everyone's like talking about how men can do one thing and women can do another. And oddly, no one's complaining about the other 59 fucking genders that have been fighting for the last 4 years. Suddenly everyone's a man and a woman again. It's kind of funny.
So there's speaking of funny. So now there's a new thing that come out, and I can't remember where the hell this come from, but the thing I seen the other day. This is no shit. It was on the New York Post, I think. And it's a legit article. They're basically saying people with testicles now have a higher susceptibility to COVID. So to me, it's like a covert way of saying, okay, you should go out and neuter yourself. And literally, that's the kind of what I got out of it. I had to read it. I mean, you couldn't make up something that stupid, so I had to read it. You know, I mean, that's what we do. It's good bathroom reading sometimes. So I got on there and read it, and I mean, literally, it's like slipping in. Okay, every guy that's out there, if you don't want to catch COVID, cut your nuts off. I'm like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? And I mean, that's where our news has gone, man. I mean, it's like. And then, like, you're seeing these news anchors that are supposedly trusted by everybody else. Chris Cuomo, or, you know, Frito, I guess he hates that name, so I'll call him Frito for this instance. Supposedly contracts the COVID thing, right? And he's supposed to be on recovery and everything else. Well, he's walking around one of the parks in New York City, no mask on, no gloves on, nothing like that. And he's got his family out there. And someone confronts him about it, and he throws a goddamn hissy fit. Okay, I mean, literally, these are the people that get paid to lie to us. I literally mean lie to us, because that's what they do. And you know, another CNN anchor or MSNBC, I don't know what the hell he's on. I never watch him, but it blows my mind that the people that see this shit reported, or you know, see this stuff happen, and they don't leave. They make excuses for it. And they stay with it. It's like, oh, that's okay. You know, he probably didn't mean to do that. Like, dude, he was out with his fucking family, breathing on other people and infecting things. And it's like, okay, well, if it's real, then, you know, he just completely. And Nancy Pelosi today, perfect example of Nancy Pelosi. Her and her entire Congress side of the Congress today was, and none of them wore masks. While they were addressing the Congress, none. Aunt Pelosi's like this, and she coughed into her hand and put her hand back on the podium and shit. And it's like, you know, I guess we're the only ones that have to, you know, wear masks and wear gloves and not touch shit. So,
well, you know, that's another indication, you know. And I don't do the whole conspiracy theory thing, but I'll definitely say people need to question things a little bit more than what they are now. If to me, it makes me wonder what they know that I'm not being told, you know. And you look at, I mean, again, another reason to consider this being a biological weapon to some degree or not. Look, the human body already has over 38 billion viruses contained within it right now. It's already there. My personal opinion on what's happened is everyone has had this COVID virus for a long, long time. You can only get a virus basically in a couple ways. Usually it has to be injected, or it has to be, and that could be done, for instance, if it wasn't injected, everyone would be running around with rabies right now. You don't stand next to a dog that has rabies, jumps over into your system. If the dog bites you, that's different. Now I'm going to go out on a limb here, and this is just my opinion. I can tell you I haven't, you know, and I'm not an anti-vax person. I don't want to be coined as that at all. But I can tell you the last thing that was put in my body was by the United States military, and it was called anthrax. And that was over 22 years ago. I haven't had as much as a common cold since. I've traveled around the world 6 times. I haven't been vaccinated. I haven't taken any of those cocktail drugs. And I can tell you, I don't have a single problem with my body. Now, the point I'm trying to make is I would highly consider that this COVID thing was already put into people by way of, we'll just say, a vaccine. Now, I know that's going to make everybody go, that's a conspiracy theory. It's all bullshit. But consider this. There's no possible way that any medical institution on this planet can predetermine whether a combination of drugs over a period of 15 to 20 years is going to react normal once those drugs meet each other.
Right.
So I can give you a vaccine in 2018. There's no way for me to predetermine whether the vaccine I give you in 2020 is going to have a problem with the vaccine I gave you in 2018.
Right.
So it could also very well be that this virus has been sitting, we'll just say, dormant within the body, and something set it off.
Something activated it. Yeah, I agree. That's kind of my suspicion.
There's no running away from this either. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing a mask or anything. I mean, the thing that's funny over here looking at the United States is it's like stay indoors. You're not allowed to go anywhere. For instance, one of those places you can go, however, is the grocery store. And it's like, wouldn't that be the biggest place of contamination for frick's sake?
Yep.
The grocery store, but you can go there. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up unless everyone's literally under the impression that everyone is so stupid at this point they don't even understand how to quarantine people correctly. So everyone says, you got to trust the WHO. Well, the WHO is telling me to stay in my house until I need groceries, and I can go into a grocery store and get. Has the world gone that stupid to where they think stupidity is such a norm and that's what's protecting them right now? I mean, people need to start thinking for themselves. It's a miss, and I don't know what the problem is, but I can tell you the way it looks from where I sit is all this shit was planned, it was executed, and it's happening right now, and there are other things happening parallel to that most people aren't even paying attention. You have the social justice warriors sewing masks at home and things like that. People, go outside and get the damn virus because you're not going to evade it. It will infect you at some point.
That's what it's kind of funny you brought that up, because there's actually a couple doctors now in California that are telling people, don't stay in your house because you're actually going to make yourself sicker. And with all the crap that we've had out, when you were a kid, you're a little older than I am. So when you were a kid, one of the biggest things was to try and build a healthy immune system, right? You go out, you ate dirt, you did everything that could possibly make you sick, and it made your immune system stronger. And what are we telling people now? Don't go outside. Wash your hands with crap that we're not supposed to really use to wash our hands with, sanitizing our hands and everything else. So, I mean, there's so many different beliefs on what can make you sick and what makes you healthy and everything else. And, I think what it's doing is it's creating basically a national state of paranoia, for one. But it's also going to create a whole bunch of germaphobes and, people that are, what's the word I want to use? Hypochondriacs.
Yeah.
And I mean, the idea, and this is a true thing. It can happen. I've seen it happen. And the suggestibility, you suggest that somebody can get something, a quarter of your population automatically, oh shit, I've got that, right? They start Googling different symptoms, and okay, well now, it'd be like a guy going, okay, well I've got ovarian cysts now. I feel a pain here, so this is what I've got. And WebMD, dude, is literally one of the worst fucking things that has ever put on the internet, because everybody automatically assumes that they have something before they ever go get seen anyway. And think about all the people that they say have this, and the people that are sitting there reading all the symptoms and everything else going, oh my God, I think I have it. And there's nothing wrong with them. Now you're going out and you're getting tested, and you're wasting the test and all this other. It's just a huge, big circle jerk. I mean, I really think that.
Well, I think the tests, don't the tests have an 80% miss rate?
And if you've had the flu shot, they come back now. They're saying that if you had the flu shot, there could be a false positive. I mean, so if that's the case, you're getting a false positive from a flu shot. Doesn't that mean the flu is involved in there somehow?
Sure.
I mean,
and look at how the numbers are being skewed. I see people do their videos online where they walk into the hospital because they have a runny nose. They talk to the doctor. The doctor gives them a medication without testing them for anything. They leave. They show the paperwork to the camera, and it says COVID. So here's the other thing, and this is where people really need to think too. But think about this. Why would they raise the numbers on the COVID deaths and the COVID problems? The only time you raise the numbers is to be able to push something later that's backed by those numbers. It's, I'll just go into the whole vaccine thing, because it's a great example. But a year down the road, someone comes up and says everyone needs to be vaccinated against the COVID virus. And people say, no, I don't want to be vaccinated. And they say, well, here are the numbers. This is how many people it affected. And this becomes the justification for enforcing a new law, which is now you have to be vaccinated. So the only time you're going to raise numbers like that, I mean, and let's be honest, this ain't no conspiracy theory. Everybody knows it's going on. People walk in with the stupidest symptoms and suddenly they have COVID-19. You're creating stress amongst the people, but mind that, you raise the numbers because when you're going to push something later, the numbers are what justify the push.
Yep.
That's not rocket science.
Well, and think about how much, 10 years down the road, think about how much money the pharmaceutical companies are going to make off of a drug that supposedly cures you or supposedly fights against a disease that has ravaged across so many people. It's all about money and control. I mean, I've always thought that about, any of that kind of stuff. Money and control. And the pharmaceutical companies are completely in control of all of that crap. You're not going to, when you go down and you get a shot, okay, so I take testosterone. I have to, but I take it, and it only gives you about 10% of the ingredients that are actually in that. I literally mean that. The bottle only gives you like 10% of what's actually in the stuff. And with it being testosterone, it's synthetic. It's not real. I mean, your body's not creating it. So, that's the thing, is you're not going to find out what the hell's in that. And most doctors aren't going to know. They're just going to say, okay, well, they said we can do this. You should take this shot. That's one reason, you've got all the anti-vaxxers. They want all the information out there. It's like eating meat, It's like you go to the grocery store and you buy a package of meat, and you see two things. They look exactly the same. I'm going there because Bill Gates is trying to push synthetic meat now. But you got two things, and you're not sure which one is real and which one's fake. Which one are you going to buy?
Right.
Should you buy one? Well, I don't know. Well, it tastes the same. Well, what's in it? Where did it come from? None of that kind of, and they used to put all that stuff on labels. Now they don't do that anymore. So you can't even be informed on what the hell you're putting in your body, whether it's food or whether it's drugs.
And here's the odd thing about that too, and that's a really, really great point you make. Think about the people that actually do their own thinking now, and the people that actually look into things to try and come up with an answer are the people being coined anti-vaxxers and conspiracy theorists. Those are the people that are doing the thinking. Mm-hmm. The people that don't do the thinking, they're the norm. Oh, well, if you don't question us, we're going to call you normal. But if you question anything, we're going to basically turn you into a quack and call you different names.
Yep.
Those are the innovators. Those are the free thinkers. We need those people, whether they're right or wrong. They mentally expand the rest of the world. It's called innovation. So
it's like the Democrats listening to a 11-year-old or 14-year-old girl running around the world telling everybody that the fucking world's falling apart because of climate change. They're listening to them rather than listening to actual real facts and science behind it. They're listening to this girl leading with emotion rather than listening to actual physical science. Everything like that blows my mind. But well, Juan, I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for the night. It is now, I don't know what time it is here. It's 10 o'clock our time almost. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it down, but you're welcome to come back on with me anytime. And having a discussion with you is always enjoyable. So, I know that you were talking about doing some more stuff video-wise and stuff like that. Definitely keep me posted because I'll definitely interested in watching. But have fun down there in Central America. I kind of envy you right now. I wish I was on a beach right now with a cold Corona in my hand. So real quick before we get off here, tell me what the food and the what kind of beer and stuff like that down there is. Do they carry American items down there at all?
Yeah, they do. It's a little bit more expensive, but the items they do have here are fairly inexpensive. I want to say down here in Nicaragua they run off of Cordoba. So Cordoba now is at 35-1. So it's 35 Cordoba to a single American dollar. So at the end of the day, I basically can have a beer for about 75 to 80 cents.
Wow.
So that's the local beer. Yeah.
It's like $10. No, it's like $10 a beer here.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Super affordable, and look, I'm not a stickler. It's all about principle to me. I want to have an equal exchange. If I give someone $1, I want $1 in return for what I get. Right. Here, it's very common to get those prices. America, I think your purchasing power is about 5 cents to the dollar. Here, what I hand over, I get in return. So that's really nice. And like I said, you can go out and have a really nice meal, have a couple cocktails, enjoy your evening, and you're going to drop about 15 US dollars.
That'd be great. I mean, really great. I mean, it's nothing for me and the wife to go to like Texas Roadhouse and spend like $60 on for two of us. So
Yeah.
you know,
I bought a dirt bike. I bought another dirt bike about a week and a half ago, brand new, for 1,000 US.
wow, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's like my dad buying a car back in like the '70s for like $3,000.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Juan, I appreciate you coming on, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night on here. And if you want to hang out for a minute, we can chat whenever I get done with the stream, and we'll go from there. So, hang tight.
All right. Thank you.